Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff, your host for this podcast. And joining me is my co host, also the show's producer, my co laborer in the vineyard, and expert investment advisor, Terrence Hollisworth. Terry, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Ratliff. How are you?
I'm good, my brother. How are you these days?
Good. We're getting close to Christmas, and I'll tell you, the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is a tough time in the market because everybody's attention has refocused to buying presents and you
Yeah.
know being good for Christmas, going to Christmas parties. I think I went to three of them this week already. Going
Wow.
to another one on Sunday. So you
More to
know,
come, right?
yeah.
What kind of advice can you offer people who are tempted to take advantage of these 70% off clearance and 50% off sales and cyber days of the week, cyber Saturday, cyber Monday, which really aren't sales, by the way, people. They aren't sales, right? They ain't sales. Anyway, what kind of advice do you have for our consumers out there who are aspired to buy things for their presents for their families and friends?
Well, the first and foremost is probably pay with cash, right? There was a report that came out earlier this week. If you like Diversity Today Media, you probably seen it. And if you haven't liked it, please like the page on Diversity Today Media. But it stated how the average credit card debt is $1,000, up 19%, and making minimum payments. It take you end up paying almost $1,000 more to pay it off, and I don't remember, maybe like 20 years or something dumb like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So, enjoy Christmas in the way that you enjoy your family, and really think about just being good with money and not overspending, not putting it on going in debt for Christmas. And I live in a place where I say go buy stock for these kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, just the danger of using the credit card during the season, very tempting. Some of you may want to increase your credit limit to increase your spending. Just remember the allocation first goes to interest. So if you have a high interest credit card, I mean, that's why it takes longer because you have a higher balance that the money is allocated that your payments are going to is going towards interest before it even hits the principal. So
Absolutely, yeah,
as Terry said, use cash if you can. Very tempting, but please be careful. I also want to talk just briefly, Terry, about the U.S. Senate race, state Senate, U.S. Senate race in Georgia that took place
yes.
last night. Man, I was on pins and needles, like, man, Herschel cannot win this race. He
it,
could win a national championship for University of Georgia as a football player, but a politician, he is not.
what does that say about
Oh,
the Republican Party that whether we had these things about him that doesn't fit what we think you want to see out of a human, right?
mhm.
From abortion to
Yeah,
um, you know domestic
marriage,
violence, things
yes,
like that.
yes. Mhm.
And that's unfortunate, but that's their candidate. They'll win at any place that they can win at, and I'm not certain that's what the country needs.
They win by any means necessary. And if it's, if the elephant is in the room, and if people don't want to accept it, then that's on them. But voter suppression is real. Voter suppression took place in Georgia, yet Senator Warnock still won.
It is, but I'll tell you that the one thing that we always have to be conscious of is engagement, and voter turnout in the Black community has was the lowest it's been since 2006,
Yeah, yeah.
and that matters. Winning elections matter. In Iowa, we lost the first in the nation caucus state. South Carolina is going to be the first one in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But in Iowa, guess what? We've been losing elections. Forget about the fact that it's 90% white here and all these other things. The
Right.
fact is that we're just not doing a great job of organizing and getting people out to the polls. And because of it, the country is not looking like, it should.
Right.
But, you
Right.
know, on the other hand, out in Illinois, we breaking ground, right? And
Yes, sir. Yes,
we're
sir.
getting new people in, and
Hmm.
Norma. I should be
Yes.
calling her Representative Norma at
That's
this
right.
point, right?
Newly elected. That's right. Yeah.
She's in there, and that shows the power of engagement. Um,
We're proud of her, man. And she's a Proviso East graduate, and we're looking forward to having her on in just a few moments, along with our guest co-host Jeremy Horn, who was a guest in the past on this podcast, and we're looking forward to having both of them on. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention our Master Investment Finance class
oh
that
yeah,
takes place every Thursday. Our last one is going to be next Thursday for the year, right?
yep.
So those of you who are seeking, words of wisdom as it relates to your finances, Terry is an expert. He's not just one who calls himself that. He is an expert investment advisor, and he'll give sound advice. We have fruitful conversations. You do not have to be an expert in investment nor in finance. Just be able to ask your questions and to inquire about our class. If you want to register for our class that takes place every Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, email me at sratliff68@yahoo.com. In turn, I will send you a link to access the class. Again, it's free and it's a virtual class. You do not have to be anywhere in person, and we look forward to having you on in our class.
All right. Well, see everybody on Thursday, and don't spend too much money for this Christmas.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Brother Terry. As always, I'm excited about introducing our guest, State Representative elect Norma Hernandez. This is her second time on this podcast, and the first time was just a delight. Second time is even sweeter because now she holds an even higher position. But Madam Hernandez, as I said in the first time around, for those of you who were not on the podcast watching, she was born and raised in Melrose Park and is an urban planner at the University of Illinois Chicago, also known as UIC, the Great Cities Institute. She proudly serves as a board of trustee at her alma mater, Triton Community College, rather. Triton is a Hispanic serving institution where she was elected as the first Latina in the election cycle of April 2021, and she just became the first Latina elect state representative for the 77th State House District. We're going to talk about her accomplishments, what that means for the community, and what that means for her vision for the constituents that she's going to serve. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on State Rep-elect and Proviso's Pirate graduate, Norma Hernandez.
Wow, thank you. Hi, everyone. I want to clap to that. I'm very
Absolutely.
proud,
Clap for
very
you.
proud of all of it that has been accomplished in the past 2 years without planning it, right? It was just kind of was destined to be this way. So thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you. I know that you are now starting to travel back and forth to Springfield. Is that correct?
Yes, I just came back this past Thursday. I was gone for almost a week doing
Wow.
orientation. So juggling work still, and still trying to make sure I have a good transition for January, so I don't kind of just pop in out of the blue. I'm kind of already getting orientated and acclimated into this new big role.
Yeah. When is the swearing in ceremony?
We have inauguration on January 11th, and it's going to be hosted at UIS, the University of Illinois at Springfield, along with my other colleagues who were unable to get formally inaugurated during COVID. So whoever got elected during COVID couldn't have obviously a formal inauguration because of all the restrictions. So it's going to be a really nice ceremony given, the previous class and our class kind of doing it together. Nice. So we're expecting a lot of people in the full room.
Wow, a lot of excitement. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of energy in the air. Have you had a chance to speak with maybe House Speaker Christopher Emmanuel Chris Welch, or Senator Kimberly Lightford, anything like that from our area? Yes,
I have. Yes, I've already spoken with Speaker Welch last year, specifically when we got a chance to vote him for another term for Speaker, which I'm very proud of.
Yes, indeed.
It's also very nice to have him talk about his previous, work at Proviso, because I'm like, that's my home.
Right.
Just having that internal connection with someone that's such a powerful person right now, and our, legislator who's earned, his work there. This
Yes.
is really cool. It's very unique moment, I think, to be becoming a legislator and having that connection to Proviso. It also speaks on the power of Proviso.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's that question. Could anything good come from not just Maywood, but Proviso Township?
Mhm.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, we have
Absolutely.
legislators that are, pretty badass that are,
That's right.
but like, man, there's a lot of good people coming out of Proviso, and that's amazing to be part of that legacy, really, just of change makers.
Change makers,
Mhm.
transformative leaders, and things like that. Now it's you have Brother Welch, you have
Mhm.
Proviso's graduate Kimberly Lyford, who I believe
Mhm.
is the senior,
Yeah,
representative as far as the senators for the state of Illinois. Is that correct?
correct. So
Am
she's
I
all
right?
in
Yeah.
leadership to the senators. Yeah.
Yeah, she's also a Proviso's graduate, a fellow alumni of my same class, 1986. And then also there's someone else, Lakeisha Collins, right? Who's a
Yes.
state rep?
Yeah, Rep Collins, who graduated there as well. And I bumped into her last year, and that's when I found out that she, along with Greg Kelly, who's the president of SEIU
That's
Healthcare.
right.
So it was really nice. We were in a panel. We were all in the same room, quote unquote, Zoom room. And
Right.
there was a lot of Proviso pirates in here. We're like, see?
Because the
We're everywhere.
Pirates, things we
Mhm.
run the state of Illinois, right?
Literally,
And now we have you,
Mhm.
representing, and we're so very proud of you. You still, sit on the board for Triton College, Triton Community College, right?
Mhm. Correct, I
Um,
do.
you got you got
There till at least till my full term. That was a very hard race. Staying there all the way through.
Nice. We're going to talk about your vision as the new state rep, Madam Hernandez. But before we do, I want to bring on our guest host, also a Proviso East graduate, very active member of the community, Mr. Jeremy Horn. Are you there, Mr. Horn?
Yes, I am there. Hello, everyone. Yes, you know it.
All right. Welcome, my brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hello, Illinois State Rep Norma. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. Good to see you, especially in these spaces.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So I want to start off, Jeremy, then you please chime in as you see necessary. You're now the first Latina state
Mhm.
representative for the 77th district.
Yes.
How does that feel? Higher level, okay, you have larger constituents, and in addition, you represent Pirate Nation.
Mhm.
What was your emotions on election night when you found out you won? And since that time, what have you been working on?
Yeah. So that day that I won, we were already, we had a really high. We were very hopeful that we were going to have a winning race. We were a lot stronger than the candidate that we were against, and just overall, just a better organization and operation. But it really hit me the night of, where I wanted to see how much I won by. And I remember my friend Tony Favela, who also ran this race about 6 to 8 years back. He was crunching the numbers on a napkin. We're like, "What's the total? What's the number?" What? And he just like grabbed a piece of pen that was next to me. He just started writing the number. That he's like, "Yeah, that's it. You won." And I was just like, it just took me back, and I'm like, "Wow, this is it. Like, this is it. This is everything that we sacrificed for, and all the money that got invested into at the time." The long, just thinking, it just kind of took me back to all of the hard work that it took to get here, not just this year, but like my whole
Yeah.
experience, every life experience that has been challenging for me, that has, made it difficult for me just to even graduate from all levels of school, to be quite honest. So I got very emotional during my speech on election day, but I think it hit me more last year last week, when I got to orientation and I got to the Capitol and they gave me my ID. And
Wow.
I really cried, and I just was just like, wow, it's an honor to just come into these offices and be behind the scenes, and then get this different type of treatment, but not necessarily because that's what I want, but it's kind of like I'm just a normal person. Like, I am a regular girl. Like, it's just you feel like you don't deserve it. Um,
Mhm.
but you just have to like step into your power, and that's kind of like how I'm trying to now work through. Is like, you have this type of power, but also like impact that you're walking through that people can see, and I just not have to, really be confident with it, because I feel like imposter syndrome is real, and everything happens so fast that I'm still trying to like catch up to all the crazy changes that are happening as we speak.
Processing everything and
Yeah.
absorbing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jeremy?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say this, Illinois State Rep Hernandez, you have really inspired me, and to see like-minded people like me who loves the community, that are investing in this community, amazing things can happen. I'm hoping with your leadership that you can really like get all the knowledge and the worth that you need and pass that down to the next generation to help develop the future leaders so you can pass the baton. And that's what I'm really hoping that you can do.
Indeed.
Thank you. Thank you. I am. I want to probably say that I had students from East Leiden High School, West Leiden, Fenton High School,
Nice.
who were all volunteers for me on election day. We're at my election day party, and these are like young people that saw me through social media, Instagram, Facebook, and just kind of signed up, showed up, and brought along their friends. And I had a group of teens that were really there also, just because they see the importance of representation. So those are the kind of young people that I want to keep, you know, developing, and hoping that I can reach my proviso students too, because I think that exposure is really important. And if I can just get to the schools and be able to speak, that they can find that connection and want to get involved, then I'm happy to, have like a leadership development program within my office to see how we can continue nurturing and developing these young leaders that they wanna be a part of this change.
Absolutely. In that same vein, you just shared a little bit of your vision. What is your overall vision
Mhm.
for your district? Now, is Franklin Park part of
Mhm.
your district as well? Because you touched on East Light, West Light. Okay.
Yeah, so I have a good. I think most of Leiden Township, actually. So there's chunks of Elmwood Park that I have, and chunks of River Grove that I have,
Mhm.
but the surrounding areas of Leiden I have as well. So overall, the vision that I had in the beginning was more focused on civic infrastructure and just really thinking about civics, and also how we can have young people create the change that we desperately need because of climate change.
Mhm.
And how can we do that locally? But everything else, everything connects all around that once you have people that are engaged in government, period, right? And that was really what the work that I have been doing at UIC, working with CPS, working with college students at UIC. So now I have the opportunity to think about this more broadly and macroly within my district, and being able to have the resources behind it versus wanting to fundraise, get grants and things like that. But I also want to make sure that we have the right advocate in the room. I saw the need for it during COVID, especially in my area. We didn't know the need of representation and how to advocate the right way for health issues specifically. So I want to be able to make sure that I can be that voice when we have times of hardship, which we know we're continuing to have. We have a recession, right, that people are quote unquote saying it's coming. So just being able to be that advocate in times of hardship, hardship is pretty much all around us ever since we can even remember, right? Communities have been disinvested for a long time. Our educate, like, there's just so much, right? So I want to be that advocate in times of hardship when we need it. I think my broader vision as well is just like thinking about a green economy, pushing for green jobs, but making sure that folks like myself, who I thought at one point wasn't going to make it to college, that we have other opportunities, and how can we make sure they are grabbing those opportunities in the right spaces, which is providing a better infrastructure, green infrastructure, and being able to take advantage of those resources when we have them. So there's a lot of work that's needed, but these are really mainly my focus is activating the people that normally don't participate in government, making sure we're educating them all around issues that are important, really activating also the need for climate change policies on a hyper local level, and just providing the resources that we need and advocating them so we can make sure that they are coming into our neighborhoods and people are actually applying for them. So having that also part of my vision as well.
Fantastic. Jeremy, you had a question for Madam Hernandez?
Yes, you said something, Norma, about civic engagement. And me, when COVID hit in 2020, it really threw a lot of people off. And I was watching a podcast about Proviso East. And one student who was like president at the time, he says that the young people don't even vote because they think that it's not benefit to them, that they don't see no progress. And I think that's what's really lacking at Proviso East, our alma mater. Is like there's like nobody in with community leadership to really push them or challenge them, say, hey, that is not true. You know, you do have the right to vote. Now, you being an Illinois state rep, how can you really persuade and advocate for the students, especially the Latino community at Proviso East, Maywood, and Merrill's Park, to really get them civic engaged about the power of voting, not just on a national level, but on a local level?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what I truly believe in, it's the work that I've been doing for the past 5 years, is sometimes students just need money and allow agency in how to spend money to enhance things that they know is needed. Proviso East, we've seen a lot of remodeling, right? We got a brand new stadium, we got a brand new parking lot, and how much of a say do students really get to have in that? That's something that's a really good opportunity and an example of, if we were to do a participatory process, right, where young people had some kind of say or agency in how some of these developments were happening, then they can see, obviously the developments are going to happen, right? The money's there. There's going to be some kind of infrastructure updates. If we can give these type of processes young people an opportunity to have a say, and for them to be able to see that their whatever they say come to action, that's a way that we can provide the best experiences for young people to see, okay, my voice does matter. The money that is being given to the school and how we want it funded is on the needs that we're asking for. So I think those are ways that we can incorporate young people with administrators on how they can be more involved in the way public finance works, and the way that we just get involved with local leaders. That's kind of, you have to think about a cultural shift, and that's one way to do it. And I think another way is obviously education, rethinking the way we teach civics, and rethinking the way that government interacts with young people in the education system. So I think is really important.
Okay.
Excellent question, Jeremy. And I want to just kind of piggyback on that. We're talking at a macro level. So when I ask you a question from a micro level perspective, you have an urban planning background, you work in that field right now. Obviously, you know about the importance of urban economics. From a micro level, as you talked about the health issues, you talk about having the money for infrastructure and public policy that really reaches out to the less fortunate communities, those who are trying to rebuild and rebrand themselves, like a Maywood, for example. How do you address that from a micro perspective, like employment for young people? You mentioned civics. That is important. We need to get back to that. Like, what do you see? What is your vision from a micro standpoint as it involves the community, more specifically younger people?
Yeah, I think overall, we have right now what we have is, and I remember working with my director on a research of young people and the unemployment rate for the city of Chicago. And obviously the city and the suburbs are a little different, but it's also one and the same, right? With the needs and the issues, in some areas are violent and some other areas are not, or disinvested or whatever. Right. But I think that being able to really have access to data is really important. And even teaching young people on how to hone in those skills of retrieving data and being analytical about things. So then they also have an awareness of what their community is, what's wrong with their community.
Right.
When we don't really teach young people that part, they don't really understand the actual system for what it is, and how not to make them feel like victims, but also victims on themselves, but also understanding that there is a need here and we have a way to solve it. I think that understanding the way, like, for example, the Build Back Better bill that was given, or that was passed, there's funding that's going to be coming in through that's then going to get funneled into locally into these communities. How can we tap into that for vocational training? How can we tap into that to have create programs that are paying young people to get involved, right? To create programs that are paying young people to work with the mayor, to work with other elected officials, because in some way we have to also give stipends to young people to want to understand the way government works. We can't expect young people to just get involved for free when they also probably have to have jobs, take care of their brothers and sisters. Like, we have to really understand what the needs of our community are and how we can actually provide the right resources and the right job opportunities that are going to also teach them government skills and how to engage with government and other people around the community. But I do think that overall, it's a really complex system. We have a long way to go, and I think that just thinking long term and longevity, young people have a lot of learning to do within education that we have to restructure and change. But
Yeah.
but yeah, but it's I think it's a really complex issue.
And I'm sure it's going to take time to flesh it all out and
Mhm.
to create those collaborative relationships and to
Mhm.
be able to make that transformational project. But
Right.
if anybody can do it, I know you can.
Mhm.
But I want to kind of piggyback on what you said about the Build Back Better
Mhm.
initiative. Can you talk a little bit about that as it relates to those who may not be familiar with that?
Yeah. So the Build Back Better plan was kind of a way to help. Well, in some way, because I think that it's also not tackling climate change, but in some way it was meant to tackle climate change. And it started off with a way bigger budget. It was a lot more greener in terms of the way that the resources were going to be given. We're supposed to be removing ourselves away from gas and oil, right? But with all of the conversations and the way politics works, it somehow got fizzled into a less green bill. But we're still going to get funding and we're still going to be able to have some transformative change in our infrastructure and the way we have jobs, right? So I think nonetheless, with what we have and the amount of funding that we can have through this bill that took a while to get passed, I think we have an opportunity to really connect our community colleges with our high schools. To think about if we're going to be transforming or changing the way we're redesigning our streets and just infrastructure overall, how can we make sure we create programs and opportunities that young people can learn how to even be the builders of these streets, right? How can we make sure that they can take advantage of the funding that's happening and actually giving it back into the pockets of young people and building their skill sets? So I think it provides an opportunity to have larger conversations with educational institutions, mayors, and state legislators to think about how we can design or help create vocational training programs on how to make sure we're providing the right skill sets for people to really take advantage of what funding we're about to get from the federal government.
Fantastic. Jeremy, please.
So you said something about trade and manufacturing program because me being involved at Proviso East High School, I know that they have a manufacturing program that is back because college is not for everyone, but everyone should have an opportunity to have a career, a successful career. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping that we can really promote these trade programs and it really can really impact the youth today because that's what I see. It's like a stigma that if you trade, you're not college oriented or not smart enough. And I think that's just really ignorant and foolishness about that.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a lot of outreach. I think that could be a lot more outreach that I think could be done. And I think there's a lot more education that we have to talk to our parents about because sometimes even our parents are also part of, they want to see their student or their child come with a 4-year degree, right? There's like a misconception here that we think that having a 4-year degree provides more status and getting a certification for welding or when
Mhm.
sometimes those are even higher paying jobs than a 4-year degree and you don't have the debt behind it. So I think
Right.
there's a lot of education that should be happening for even elementary school levels, because a lot of parents still don't really understand how trade school could actually be better for their own child than a 4-year institution. And sometimes that child who is feeling pressured about getting that 4-year degree ends up not graduating, and then they get that low self-esteem, right? They think bad about themselves, and they also don't feel like they have another way out.
Right.
So I think we have to make it a part of the culture of really talking to parents from a younger age about vocational training and even bringing in some of that exposure into elementary schools. I think
Mhm.
that's something that we don't have, or I never saw when I was in grade school, and my nieces now haven't seen yet, and one of them's in 7th grade and the other one's in 4th grade.
Wow.
So I think even bringing it into elementary school is really important and having, any kind of workshops with the parents involved, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of education I think has to be done on a younger level for both the students and the parents.
Well, it should be a pipeline, right? From elementary school to high school
Mhm.
and beyond, right? When I was at Provisor we had woodshop class, and
I remember that. Yep.
I built myself a lamp. I mean, it was a
Oh,
nice
really?
lamp, a little portrait thing. I could put a little picture in that bad
Wow.
fella, and I was proud of that. We need to get back to that. Like you said, the trades, Jeremy and Madam Hernandez, being able to open up these opportunities for these grade levels, K through 12, and so they're prepared for their future. Because, like you said, everyone is not interested in going to college. Some need to work right away. They may have a gift in whatever it may be, as a journeyman, as a welder, pipe fitter, whatever the case may be.
Or auto mechanic,
Auto mechanic. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So I like what you're saying, Madam Hernandez. But I want to know, from your perspective as a board member, does Triton need more funding to help build this relationship, collaboration with Proviso Township, and even in your new role as state rep?
I think overall, it is a public school, so yes, we need more funding.
Short answer.
Yeah, all public schools need more funding. It's also, it matters how we manage these funds, and also who are the leaders within these schools that have the best interest at heart to help create the programs that are needed for our students or for our young people. But it's also about having the right funding being allocated to the right programs with the right people in mind. So I think we have to make sure we create really good relationships across all levels of government, and then seeing how we can really co-create an authentic process or plan to bring in these type of processes into our schools. Because there's a lot going on right now with the Proviso board, right? There's always a lot going on in general, but I think that we have to make sure we have all of these things aligned for us to actually create the right programs and processes for our students to be able to thrive, because we can't thrive in chaos. And in order for us to get out of that, we have to make sure we have the right people that are going to be making the right decisions that are going to impact our students.
So I want to ask, in that same vein, Madam Hernandez, you hit that button. What's happening with the school board in D209 with the challenges that are facing now? They all say they care about the children, but yet we have this chaos. So that doesn't mix. You can't say you care about the children, but you're fighting the way you're fighting, from the superintendent all the way with the parent. So how challenging do you think that would be to get that collaboration in place with the board, including the superintendent, as well as the parents? The parents, I mean, their children attend school. Maybe their children no longer attend school, but they're engaged. Then you had the suspension of, Clarissa Gillespie and others and things like that. So I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
How would such a chaotic situation that exists now as you approach your first days as state rep?
Yeah, I think that for me, what's happening now is it's really a crisis in our school, because as someone that went to East, there was already a lot of issues. And I don't want to say it in a bad way, but there was already a lot that we would have to go through in the hallways, right? You would sometimes see fights, or sometimes, like there was just things that we had to think about as we were going to class. So I can't even imagine having to think about those things now, on top of having a board that's not collaborating with the teachers, or having a lack of teachers that students have to be in the cafeteria, right? Like all of this impacts the way we learn. Right. And if we can't have that internal part of the education, ecosystem in order for young people to actually have a positive educational experience, then it's really hard to kind of tap into other schools, because young people have to thrive in their main sections of classes, right, in order for them to continue even working in other classes that are going to be connected to Proviso, right? Yeah. So I think that with what we have right now, this is why we have elections, right? This is why they organize, and it takes situations like this for people to really organize, for parents to come together. I don't think that parents are just reacting out of nothing. Right. And it clearly shows that there is a movement happening with Proviso, and sometimes we have to have hardships in order for us to have positive outcomes. Maybe this is that turning point for us to really start to think about who are we electing, how
Mhm.
can we make sure we have the right people in office, and hopefully with the best outcomes in the next year, then we can then think about rebuilding the board and restructuring the way we're having conversations, and then being able to actually have conversations, right? Because right now we're not really having those regular level-headed conversations. There's a lot going on with the yelling, and understandingly so, right? Our schools in a sense of crisis.
Yes.
Um, so I think we have to make sure that we use these moments to organize and to create that change, and use that during election season. That this, and then thinking using that motive to then, once we get to the end goal, then let's really have a conversation about how we can connect all of these other institutions into the right direction and have the best processes that young people can actually thrive in.
Absolutely.
I
Jerry?
agree. I agree. I mean, looking at the Board of Education meeting live stream, it's just absolutely heartbreaking and devastating. And I really don't want to get into that because I'm trying to pick my battles because I know some of the people and I don't want to burn a lot of bridges. But like I said, it's a lot of foolishness going on. I think that it's not only making themselves look bad, but you're making the community and the students look bad, and all I could say is that, the people should really just get involved and really, like you said before, nothing changes on a national level until it changes locally. 'Cause I believe local elections is definitely the heart of what's going on in your community. When people don't vote locally, that's when things start to really start falling down. And that's all I have to say about that.
Mhm. And quickly, I do want to add, and even for example, and what I tell people that when they ask me about this is that just because your student, you don't have a child that goes to these schools,
Mhm.
you should still care, because
Yeah.
we're hoping that these young people actually succeed, right, in their trajectory. We
Yeah.
don't want anyone or give anyone a reason to want to choose criminal activity because we didn't provide the
Mhm.
right support
Right.
systems for them to actually have a successful life. So
Right.
you should care because this is your community, and we need to actually
Mm,
nurture people to succeed so we can have successful communities that are thriving. And we don't want to see the violence. We don't want to see on any of that.
Right.
But we can't create the conditions for things to turn to a downward turning point. We have to get involved, even if our people or our students or my son or my daughter isn't
Mhm.
a, isn't attending a school system that's in your district. Like, everybody should care about
Should.
what's happening.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And you
Yeah.
said something that was critical, Madam Hernandez.
Mhm.
We should think about our children, care about them, show them that we love them genuinely and we care about their future. Because guess what? We want them to come back
Mhm.
after they gain success in college or trade school or their respective career. We want them to come back to keep it going,
Right.
to
Mhm.
keep that success circulated, so we can rebuild Maywood and Proviso Township, mainly Maywood, so that money could circulate 5, 6, 7 times like it did in 1960s, 1970s, early 1980s.
Mhm.
But when you have chaotic situations and moments that's continuous, we're
Mhm.
going to keep going what we have, where the money's not even staying in the community because we don't have a grocery store.
Right.
We don't have high unemployment, things of that nature. But
Mhm.
I digress.
Yeah.
um, as we start to close this podcast, Madam Hernandez, I
Mhm.
wanted to know, what are some of the first things you're going to do once you take your oath and hit the ground running? Because you're going to hit that ground running.
I am. I am. I'm actually going to be taking holiday break to really think about my agenda for the rest of the year. And as a someone who, as a researcher, community development planner, I have to assess my community. So I want to do a district tour, meet with people, meet with my mayors, but also meet with my school superintendents or school leaders from both elementary and high schools, just to kind of get a lot of feedback, have them tell me what their needs are. And then I would like to do my own personal report, and just thinking about targeted areas for where I want to have my priorities, to bring about the kind of change or just advocacy that's needed. Because I have to assess my community first. And then from once I do that, I'm hoping by the summer I can really start, connecting with the local organizations and just really having community events, hosting, I would like to do a town hall that wraps up what I just did in session during the months of January to May, right? Just being more engaged, being more accessible, and providing the actual community engagement meetings that are needed, and being inclusive with them. And then there's certain legislation that I do want to focus on. And but I think overall it's just there's just so much learning that I have to do. That's why I want to prioritize touring my district and meeting with my elected officials just to kind of get a sense of what they think the needs are and how I can provide my critical lens to whatever the needs that they're expressing. Because I think that as a first year legislator, it's a lot of listening that I have to do, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So, I'm here for the long game. I'm trying to not just be a one-term state rep. So
you won't be.
no.
And also, I want to say it's all about picking your battles very carefully. That's what I told you. Pick your battles very carefully.
Yes, I agree.
Madam Hernandez, it has been an honor and privilege for you to take time from your extremely busy schedule to meet with us on tonight. And what I want to do is give you an opportunity for closing thoughts. First, I want to go with Jeremy. He disappeared.
I'm here.
Terry? Okay, because Terry boop, he took you out.
Oh wow! Don't do that now.
It's all love. He didn't expect me to say that, but the Holy Spirit led me in that direction to allow you to give closing thoughts first, Jeremy, and then afterwards we'll hear from Madam Hernandez for closing thoughts, words of encouragement for the community. We're excited again to have you. Thank you. First, Brother Jeremy, please.
Okay. Well, thank you all, everyone, for attending the Let's Talk Bakewood podcast. I hope that Illinois State Representative Norma Hernandez has really inspired you. And I hope that you take the words that she said in the interview to heart. I am truly humble and honored as a Proviso East High School alumni and graduate that she is the perfect candidate that's really going to kick major butt in Springfield, Illinois. And she's going to be boots to the ground on a daily basis, building bridges and really inspire the young generation to really give back to their community, but also to make a difference in their community. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jeremy. And my final words, thank you again, Dr. Ratliff, for this opportunity and being able to talk about my historic win. And the final words that I have to say about all the issues that we know are happening is that we just have to care. We have to give a damn, right? Because when people say they don't get involved in politics, we should. It affects us, literally affects us in every way. This is why there was such anxiety with yesterday's race in Atlanta, Georgia, or just Georgia overall. But we have an opportunity to really change the status quo, to really change the way we have the way our communities are even being worked and talked about. So please just really care about the place that you live in, talk to your neighbors, care about the work that we're doing, and just get involved. A lot of us are working really hard to create a change in our society, and we just need everyone to do their little bit of, their little part, because it really goes a long way.
Be the change that you want to see. That is what Madam Norma Hernandez has done. She had a vision. She turned that vision to reality. And now the rest, as they say, is history. She has made history. We know that she's going to be very successful in her time as Illinois State Representative. I also want to give a shout out to my high school IB business management students out here in Virginia. I see you, and I also see you in class. Be ready to take that summative on Friday. No, but seriously, thank you for joining in and tuning in. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Tune in for our next podcast as we bring in next exciting guests. Also, thank Jeremy Horn for stepping in also as a guest host. We like for you to like us on Facebook as well as on YouTube. And until next time, have a blessed evening, be safe, and good night.